Hi everyone, thank you so much for waiting around. As discussed, my name is Olivia. I'm the founder of Run for Heroes, which during lockdown, it was set up and it asked people to run 5k, donate £5 and nominate 5 others to do the same. My background is actually in documentary filmmaking, so I had no experience at all fundraising or working in charity, and really just delved in the deep end. Suddenly had raised a campaign, had managed to run a campaign that had raised £10 million for the NHS and encouraged over 1.5 million people to get active. So if we cast our minds back to April 2020 when the Prime Minister called a national lockdown, I'm sure everybody will remember where they were. I was in my house in Battersea, and at the same time my boss called me and was like, our project's been stopped. So as recruiters, you guys know, like as freelancers, it's a double-edged sword. Parts of it are amazing, and when it's unstable, it's really hard. So with no income and rent to pay, I didn't have any other option but to kind of pack up my bags and head back to Edinburgh, where I'm from. So I got back and had no job. And on the third day of lockdown, I remember being quite frustrated because I was like, I've got this skill set, I can't use it. These doctors and healthcare workers are like working tirelessly and I'm sitting at home doing nothing. And I felt frustrated. I tried to apply to work at the NHS, kind of to use, I don't know, to do an admin job, and they weren't accepting applications. So by the 5th day, I kind of decided what I normally do when I feel a bit stressed. I went on a run. And at the time, I ran up to Arthur's Seat, which maybe people know in Edinburgh, quite a hard incline. And when I was about halfway up, I stopped and it was pouring with rain. And I was like, there's so many people out running. You know, all these people are using their daily exercise and putting it to good use. And I stopped and I thought, well, if everybody here that's running paid to go on their daily form of exercise, like we do in marathons and these things, if they ran 5k and maybe donated a small amount, maybe we could raise some money for charity. So I stopped and I was like, 5k is a really good exercise distance to run. It's in the 30 minutes, give or take, that we were given at the time. And £5 would be a reasonable amount of money to ask people to pay. And maybe I could encourage my friends and family to share it on Instagram and raise £5,000 for the NHS. Run 5k to raise 5k. I got home, set up an Instagram account straight away and called it Run for Heroes. I was like, run 5, donate 5, nominate 5. Kind of discussed it on my WhatsApp group with girls at home, and everybody was like, yeah, it's amazing, go for it. Just make sure that people are socially distancing and doing that. And at the time it was like, it was really hard. There wasn't anything going on. And I thought, well, if I can just get a few of my friends and family to go out and run, maybe it will make them feel better about themselves because it will boost endorphins, and ultimately, hopefully, we can raise some money for the NHS. As lots of people often say, when people are bored, it often sparks creativity. Anish Kapoor, which I love this quote, it kind of is about just that. It's about the moments that we don't know what to do, that boredom drives us to do something different and try out new ideas. So this is what we came up with. This actually came a bit later down in the campaign, but the next day I went on a run with my sister, and I ran this 5k, went back, uploaded a picture onto social media and tagged like all of our friends in it. And didn't really know what to expect, but kind of it was mad actually, because a few, I set my target, I think actually at £500 at the beginning, and I didn't really expect people to do it. I don't know, I wasn't expecting anything. I just wanted to raise a small amount of money. But actually, the next day on the Sunday, my friends started to run, they started to donate, they started to nominate. 4 days into the campaign, we had reached £5,000. And 10 days into the campaign, we had reached 25,000. 20 days, we had reached 20 million. Sorry, 1 million. And exactly 1 month into the campaign, we had reached £5 million, which was, I mean, absolutely mad. It kind of is the power of numbers, right? That was over, at the time, it was 1 million people had kind of got out and got active, which was incredible. We'd run the entire length of the globe. And at the same time, it had gone viral in loads of different countries around the world, raising money for local fundraisers and their healthcare workers. Everybody was uniting, which, you know, was such an incredible thing to be able to see. Behind every campaign are people. It was an all-female team. You know, when we did reach that first milestone of £5,000, India came on and branded it all, and she made it really happy and kind of light colours, and it was great, and it kind of gave this pinch of positivity at an otherwise really kind of hard time. And Alice came on and pushed out to press because she kind of knew the importance of making sure that those ideas were, people knew where to come back to donate, because at the time, like, we had one fundraising page that people here might have donated to. And it was trying to ensure that people knew where to go to donate this £5. At one point, that donation page actually broke because it was the most small, the amount of donations that people normally give are around £20, and ours was £5, with like 1 million people trying to get onto these fundraising page, and Virgin Money Giving at the time just couldn't sustain the numbers, so it was very cool to see. I feel, you know, obviously really privileged to be able to have worked on a viral campaign that was such a success, because I'll never experience that type of thing again. We grew our followers from 0 to 50,000 in a space of 30 days, which was mad. Instagram blocked us for 24 hours because they thought we were a bot. I was getting, you know, so many people requesting for me to share it on Front for Heroes, so the Instagram was just like flooded with requests, you know, from people like Mo Farah to Princess Eugenie to Ellie Goulding, like the Brooklyn Beckham. It was, and I kept saying to my sister at the time, I was like, oh my goodness, Brooklyn Beckham just like Instagram's up me, and she was like, no, Instagram the campaign, not not us. But it was really cool to see the celebrities kind of catch on, and the power of social media to really use their platforms to push out the word to as many people as possible. At the time, we were doing loads of like press interviews. Normally, like I told you, I'm a documentary producer. I'm normally behind the camera, not in front of it. But for the first time ever, had to be, you know, trying to encourage other people to take part. If it was on BBC Breakfast or on This Morning, and it was, you know, I knew that those type of platforms have such a powerful, they can get out to so many different people across the UK, not just on social. So yeah, the press getting behind it as well was amazing, and it was very cool to see. It was the most successful viral fundraiser ever, only second after the Ice Bucket Challenge, which was amazing, just by the sheer number of people that took part and heard about it. Like I've said, it had over 1.5 million participants, and it raised £8 million altogether. On top of that was gifted another 2 million. Interestingly, 71% of the participants were under 34, and I think that's mainly because the people that were pushing it out were, you know, young females to begin with, and I think normally when people are participating in charity events, actually the age group is much higher. So it was it was definitely an interesting learning curve for lots of charities to see. The main focus was always to raise the most amount of money for the NHS, but what came on the back of it was people that had never run before that were being nominated, and, you know, giving them a reason to run. So they continued to run 5 kilometers or 10 or 20 during lockdown and after lockdown as well. You know, we've had messages from people saying, like, this memes that will They are absolutely inspirational, and I think, it's got loads of more people out running and participating in marathons or half marathons. I even had somebody saying they'd never run and they just did an ultra marathon last year. So it's definitely motivated people to get out, which is great. Kind of, why was this campaign a success? Well, I've thought about it often, and I think the simplicity of the campaign was powerful in itself, because that 555 mechanic of a way of raising money was really simple for everybody across the UK and the world. It only asked people for small amounts of money, and I think often when you have these ideas, simplicity should be at the heart of everything. If you understand it and you can explain your idea to somebody else very easily in a couple of words, then I think that you've got a good chance of that becoming successful. At the time, obviously, the UK public was amazing. You guys would have been doing Clap for Carers or Captain Tom, and everybody wanted to do more, and I think we gave people a platform to be able to not only donate, but also do something for themselves and feel proud of it. You could post a picture on your online being like looking, nice, or getting your fastest 5K time, and that encouraged people. And I think that's when social media can be a massive power, like a very powerful tool. Because I know often, it's criticized, but sometimes if we use social media for the good, it's great, and it can unite all of us. This last point, I think, is really important for anybody that is wanting to if you've been sitting an idea for months or weeks or years, and we're always afraid to try them out because we go in and we expect them to be a success straight away. I had no expectations at all going into do this. I just wanted to raise actually £500 and then 5,000 for the NHS, and it grew. And I often tell people now, if you set out to raise £5 million, £10 million, if you set out you've never run before and you want to run a marathon tomorrow, it's not going to happen. And ultimately, if you've got low expectations of success and you just take each day as it comes and take these baby steps, actually you always surprise yourself and you will always learn from it. I like to use Airbnb as an example, just because, as we all know, like Airbnb founder he never went out one day and decided, actually, you know what, I'm gonna change the way that we visit cities, or I'm gonna change the hotel business for good. He just simply woke up, or they woke up one day and thought, I kind of need some extra money, and so I'm just gonna rent out my sofa, because San Francisco was so expensive at the time. Now the company is worth $10 billion, so it was definitely a good idea. I touched upon this a moment ago, but I think often the barrier to entry when people have ideas or they worry about just testing them out is because they're so afraid of failing them. And I always try to say to people, you will never fail because you'll always learn. So if you've got this idea that you want to try, if it's just simply I really want to take up life drawing classes, or I want to go to the gym and I haven't been for a while, then just try it out, because even if you hate it, it'll be fine. You've learned that maybe life drawing is not for you, or maybe an activity isn't right. So Run for Heroes, if I hadn't gone out and run that day and just thought, I don't know, if I raise £5, at least it's like my mum's gone and walked 5 kilometers, which she wouldn't have done anyway. That would have been, a massive achievement in itself. So yeah, definitely feel the fear and do it anyway. I want to briefly touch upon the event we ran after the Run 5, Donate 5, Nominate 5, because it links in a lot about this idea of failing, and it's something that I experienced afterwards. But we went on to turn Run for Heroes into a charity straight out on the back of it. We did some collaborations with Strava, Tony's Chocolonely, Lululemon, and we thought, well, how can we keep using this tool for good use? How can we make sure Run for Heroes, we've got this, 60,000 people on social that want to be able to either be taught about running or want to be giving more to charity. So we decided to turn Run for Heroes into a charity body. And the first event that we wanted to release was called 5K May. At the time, it was November 2020, so it was really soon after lockdown. And in-person events were still a thing of the past. We still couldn't go to anything. And as a result, charities were losing a lot of money. So naturally, India, Alice and I thought, well, why don't we give all these charities the toolkit that they need to run their own virtual event? Because we've learned this wealth of experience that nobody else is fortunate enough to get to run. So we can just give everything we've learned to these charities. So we did that, but obviously that was going to cost money. So I began pitching to numerous brands over the course of from November until January, and got partnerships on board and companies that really, really wanted to do more. And you guys, again, will know this because you're always speaking to these big brands, but they have pots of money that they could distribute to charities. So we managed to get enough money to put on this event, and we wanted to run it throughout the whole of May. We called it 5K May, and it allowed all charities to get involved. So we made kind of toolkits, we did webinars with charities, and we said to them, you can, during the course of May, ask people to run, hop, cycle, swim 5 kilometers, donate £5 to their charity, and share on social, and they unlocked a goodie bag at the end. So we ran this during May, and it was very successful at the end. Here's the kids running. So we contacted schools and companies and whatnot, and it was great. It raised £125,000, and I was so disappointed. I saw it massively as a failure. And if you compare £10 million to anything, I think you deem it as a failure. And I think that was ultimately my biggest regret post-campaign, because instead of being really happy about raising this sum of money, I was like, oh, I've failed. I've not given these charities enough money. I could have done more. I could have. And you're your own worst enemy. But now I look back at it from a year and a half gone, and I'm like, 125,000. That's amazing. So relating to this idea of fear and about trying out ideas that you might have, it's not a failure. I learned so much doing that, and I learned so much about brand partnerships. I learned so much about charity partnerships, because we paired with people like Macmillan and Choose Love and NHS Charities again, and also we became a charity. But I think often when we're in this bubble of working for ourselves all the time and pushing out our ideas and trying to make everything a massive success, you start to get unhappy about feeling that you haven't done enough. But that shouldn't be the case at all. Just wants to ask who here, if anybody, does anybody run? Okay, so just talking about the how you can come up with these ideas. For me and for you guys that run, maybe you know that often it can be a really great way to kind of switch off your mind, and you can think you're of good ideas on it, or you can, if you're worried beforehand, you come back after a run and you've got runner's high, and those worries don't feel so big. I'm not saying running is for everybody. If you have an activity like that, like yoga or meditation, or something that you enjoy that gives you 30 minutes out, it often frees up our mind to be able to think of new challenges that we want to do, or new plans for the future that you want to try out. And for me, that's running. But for you guys, I'm sure you all have something that you feel is important to you. And, you know, I think if it goes back again, if we allow ourselves to be free of these ideas, free of this time, and allow our mindset to have more time to think of these things, then you really can surprise yourself, and you can bring your energy into new places, which is great. But yeah, just to finish it off, kind of again, whether it's tomorrow you decide to join the gym that you've wanted to try, or the drawing class, or whatever's right for you, then throw yourself in the deep end, do it, because if I hadn't done it that day, we'd be £10 million worse off for the NHS. So yeah, thank you so much for listening.